The Harry that I knew, and I left when he was obviously before he got married, so yeah, 2013. But he was the media's darling. Yeah, I
Mm.
remember the story. He could not put a foot wrong. He was this, this war hero. He'd served. He was committed. He had the Invictus Games. He really couldn't. He couldn't put a step wrong.
Elsa, we're so pleased that you can join us today.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be with you, Kate.
It's such an incredible career. And in recent years, we've seen a lot of these kind of press secretaries who come in just for a short period of time, but you were really there through quite a significant, more than a decade working with the late Queen. Such an illustrious career, and then going on to Lambeth Palace from Buckingham Palace. Um, what you were right at the heart of the late. I'm just going to jump straight in and just say you were right at the heart of the late Queen's circle for such a long time. Um, and what are your favourite recollections of Queen Elizabeth II?
Well, it's funny you mentioned I was there for a long period of time. So I started in May 2001, finished December 2013. But I think what was the amazing thing about the job was no 2 days were the same. You could walk through those gates, and every day I did that. I was never with a sense of entitlement. It was always a sense of oh my golly, how fortunate and lucky am I? And every day would be different. Whether it was dealing with the media, whether it was going on a royal engagement, seeing an investiture, or just being in the office and meeting different people. So I think that was, it was an ordinary person, me, doing an extraordinary job. So as I said, I counted my blessings every day.
And sharing the office with the corgis as well.
I tell you, Kate, when those corgis, you'd see them coming down the corridor, and I'm a huge dog lover, but when I saw those corgis, I would shoot into the nearby office and hide because
Why
they
is
were
that?
pretty ferocious. They were pretty ferocious. I remember actually, the Queen hosted an afternoon tea party for the All Blacks rugby team from New Zealand. So these great big, sort of 6'5", 6'6", huge guys. Jonah Loma was one of them. And when the Queen and the corgis came in, the Queen often used to use corgis to sort of break the ice and put people at their ease. And these huge rugby players were sort of all putting their backs against the wall in terror. It was hilarious.
Gosh, the things you must have seen in your job. I mean, how do you kind of sum up that period of your life? Because I mean, every day there would have been somebody, some extraordinary VIP in the corridors of Buckingham Palace, or somebody you'd be liaising with, whether it's from kind of President of the United States of America through to, somebody who's been given the honor of going in to see the Queen, who's incredibly nervous beforehand.
You're absolutely right. I've got so many stories, probably too many to say, but I remember from sort of the sublime to the ridiculous. Kate Winslet getting her award from the Queen at an investiture, and she was standing around with her then boyfriend, now husband, and so no one was talking to her. So I went up and said, would you like a glass of champagne? We're sort of hosting a little party in the Aquarius room. She said, oh, that's so kind. So she and her husband went in for a glass, and then I gave them a tour of the palace. And I thought, wow, this is Kate Winslet. This is really cool. So it was fantastic for me.
There was a great
Yeah,
moment from that investiture, actually. I remember that Kate Winslet came and people sort of said after, "What did the Queen say when you got your honour?" And she said, she asked me all about my roles and things like that. She said, "Oh, I'm also a mum." And the Queen, I think, replied, "That's the hardest job of all," or something like that. And I think that was those little those sort of anecdotes and those little snippets that we sometimes get that people share from their moments with the late Queen were
yeah,
quite revealing, weren't they?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you feel that you've got a personal bit of information from her as well. So here it is, our monarch, our head of state, but she was a wife, a mother, a grandmother, and a great grandmother, which we can all relate to. But she had,
Absolutely.
just going back to people you meet. Yeah, again, I remember, it just shows her kindness. She was hosting President Obama for a state visit, an incoming state visit, and traditionally there's a sort of the formal arrival ceremony at Horse Guards Parade with all with the troops and the horse-drawn carriages, and then there's an official lunch, but just for sort of the team, so the home team, so the Queen's senior staff, other members of the royal family. and the visiting team with the principal. So we were sort of standing at a pre-lunch reception, and I was chatting to another member of the household. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the Queen walk towards us with President Obama. And I thought, I wonder who the Queen's coming to introduce him to. And she was getting closer and closer. And she stopped at me. And she said, Mr. President, this is my press secretary. And all I could think of is like a think bubble in my head, saying, oh my God, it's the President of the United States." And he said, "Ma'am, it's lovely to see you." Then the Queen said to him, "Yes, my press secretary is married to a naval officer." And he said, "Oh, tell your husband he's doing an amazing job." And I guess, oh my God, the president is saying my husband's doing a great job. And it's one of those real sort of pinch me moments. The Queen didn't have to do that. She didn't have to introduce him to me, but she did as a huge act of generosity and kindness.
That's so lovely. I think remember I remember her sort of very skillfully kind of manipulating the room in a way, just sort of going around being introduced to people. But there's all these kind of sort of stories about how she had these signals to her aides that, if she was getting bored of somebody, she'd move the handbag from one hand to the other. I mean, how true are those stories?
I've never seen, to be honest, Kat, I've never seen her do that. But when I mean, she's almost got an inner time clock. And she knew when she had to move on. Because, if you're going to have a reception with 500 people, you can't meet all of them. But also you want to sort of sprinkle that bit of stardust to as many people as you can. So sort of aquaries were very skillful at seeing where the next group of people were for the Queen to meet. So it was all, it's like it used to go like clockwork. It really did. And the Queen would just say, "Well, it's very, very nice to meet you, and thank you so much for coming." And then she'd move on to the next group.
And although she was obviously the star of the show, the monarch, and there was that sense of, oh my goodness, I've met the Queen. You can see these people's faces kind of like light bulbs lighting up as she sort of moved along rows and things like that, which was always extraordinary to see. But how much, there was always somewhere in the room often, it was Prince Philip as well. And how much of a support was he? I mean, we know that she's described him as her strength and stay and all that sort of stuff. And people know it, but what was it like? Sort of being in the palace, being in the room with the two of them, how much was he there to kind of support her, and how did he do that?
They were just an extraordinary team. Yeah, really a monarch and consort, but husband and wife. So she would do one side, he would do the other. So everyone felt that they were included, I suppose. And he's funny. I know some of the media, obviously not the Times, but some of the media used to gaffe-prone Prince. But actually, everybody that I spoke to who had spoken to him said what an extraordinarily funny, interesting, lovely fellow he was. And I feel the same, I'm afraid.
And the Queen had this just sense that no matter her age, no matter what was going on in her own life, privately, she would always just sort of get up and get on with it. Was that the attitude that you saw, I guess, on a daily basis?
Yeah, and I think certainly for me, what really brought home for that, what you just said, is when Prince Philip went into the London clinic for an operation, and the Queen, duty first, she still went and fulfilled a huge engagement opening the BBC's new broadcasting house in Portland Place. So while he was, and obviously she was very worried about that, as anyone would be, but she still, went ahead and carried out the commitment that she'd already made. She was incredibly dutiful.
And we forget about that, actually, don't we? That at that time when Philip was going through that, it was your decision with your team and the Queen and Philip as well, of course, to release some of those details about the fact that he was having a stent put in. And it's interesting that every time something happens with the palace, we all think it's the first time it's ever happened. The cancer diagnosis and the announcement of the King, and then of course Kate's announcement, her own video about her situation. But that's something that you had to navigate years ago and sort of skillfully lay down that kind of groundwork for these sorts of things. So how did that decision go to release some quite intimate personal details actually about Philip's health condition, but sort of drawing the line between, letting him have that privacy as well? How did those conversations go? How did that work?
I remember the stench, and I was, the first time was when he was taken to Papworth Hospital. It was just before Christmas. And I don't know about you, Kate, as a mother, I'm sure you're much better than me, but it's sort of 2 days before Christmas and I hadn't done anything. So I was trying to wrap up presents, deal with children.
I was too, when the news broke, and then all of a sudden the journalists on the other side are writing about it. But yeah.
Exactly. And then the call came. So you're navigating, a statement that's got to be passed by the medical team, but also the Queen, of course, because it's personal. And the Queen wanted to tell her family before it went out into the media. Luckily, there wasn't any speculation from the press at that time yet, but obviously we had to work and move pretty quickly before there was, chatter. Um, so I remember releasing the statement quite late in the evening, and it confirmed he had a stent put in his heart, that he went to Papworth, that he was conscious when it was done. So it was quite detailed.
Hmm.
Um, but there was quite a lot of toing and froing going on, and I remember sort of falling into bed at about 3 o'clock in the morning, thinking, yeah, wow, what a day.
Yes, indeed. The Queen had seen it all, even by the time that you got to the palace. She'd seen negative press, positive press. Did she have a kind of sanguine attitude towards
Yeah.
it? Was she quite, how was she when you took things to her? Did you have those awful kind of, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to go in and see the boss with this awful headline and make her aware of something that was happening, or perhaps with someone else, another member of the family? How did you have those
A
conversations?
lot.
And
Well, the Queen had all the newspapers brought to her every day, and which she would read. I mean, she was vociferous in getting her knowledge and information. Um, so that's how she found out. But if there was a brewing issue, we would put a note up. If it was very urgent, we would ask to see her. But yes, sanguine, and also, yeah, yes, she probably has seen it all. Yeah, and you come into the royal household as a newbie, and you're like Tigger on speed, really. You're all very, very excited, and you put a note up to the Queen, thinking that you've got to come up with this great idea. You've had a light bulb moment, and you probably get a note down saying, "Ah, yes, thank you, Ailsa. We tried that in 1972, and it didn't work." And you think, yeah, absolutely.
what would you remember what that was that you were asking?
No, I don't. I don't. I've crushed it out of my memory, Kate.
But
Other, it's just that you think actually she won't do, and she said, yes, let's take a punt on it. And I remember we were rebuilding the website, and our fantastic web editor Emma Goody came up with the idea of doing a sort of a 3D virtual tour of the palace to give a sort of a, I don't know, a taster, a curtain lifter for the summer opening, just to encourage more people to book tickets. And yeah, great idea, really innovative. Sadly, not my idea. It was Emma, so she gets all the credit. But there were a few senior members of the household, I won't name who thought this was a ghastly idea, and it took away the magic, and it was too modern, just too awful. So anyway, I put a note up to the Queen suggesting this, and she said, yeah, absolutely, go for it.
brilliant.
In slightly more regal terms, but yes, it was approved.
And well, we're talking about taking risks and the Queen saying yes to things that would surprise people. Um, we can't forget that brilliant moment at the London Olympics, which of course you were at. You were there at that time when she agreed to take part in the James Bond skit with Daniel Craig, and we see her then presumably kind of jumping out of this aircraft as she sort of parachutes down into the opening ceremony. Tell us about that, because the fact that she agreed to it, and not only agreed to it, but she was a great kind of comic actress in it.
Absolutely. Well, we saw that also with the Paddington skit for her
Yes.
Diamond Jubilee as well. So it was a very, very small circle of knowledge for that. I think her protection officer, obviously Paul Wybrew, her amazing page, Angela Kelly, her fantastic dresser, and Edward Young, who was the deputy private secretary at the time. So it was a very, very small circle of knowledge. Um, I think there was a nervousness about how it would land. I mean, even as you know, members of the royal family didn't know,
Because she
about
didn't
this.
tell her family, did she? So,
I know she's good at keeping secrets. She's good at keeping confidences, that's for sure, as the countless prime ministers will know.
well,
So,
so how did it
yeah,
happen? So they came to you and said, "How's about this?" And you thought, "Oh my
Danny
goodness."
Boyle, yeah, Danny Boyle, who of course put on the opening ceremony for the Olympics. So there was sort of quite a lot of toing and froing, my understanding, but she said yes. And it's talked about, considering how many years ago that was, 12 years ago, it's still talked about.
Doesn't feel like that long ago, does it? Yes, it does. But and then the thing with Harry as well, with Prince Harry, where she she did that kind of Invictus kind of teaser, didn't she, with the
Yeah,
Obamas?
absolutely. Absolutely. Mind you, it's much more difficult to say no to your family.
That's true. Yes, yeah. So, I mean, what do you think the lessons are from the last reign that you think could be shouldn't be forgotten, let's say?
Um, that's a really good question. Um, I think, and also, we're in a different age now with AI, with social media. I think it's a trickier tightrope to tread. I think lessons learnt, don't think before you act, which the
Hmm.
Queen always did. Don't reinvent the wheel when you don't have to.
Hmm.
Um, you, I think honesty is important, integrity, all the qualities I think the Queen had. Be true to yourself. Don't pretend you're something you're not. You wouldn't see the Queen, typing an email or using Twitter. We all know she didn't do that. It all came from the household. And I think, it is the integrity, it is the honesty. Um, I went to a talk last night. I was on a panel, and with other people. So I was the only person who used to work for the household, and yet the audience still got this incredible interest for the Queen, about the Queen, the late Queen. It's extraordinary. So, you know, thank goodness for that. Thank goodness for that. I still think the monarchy and the institution has a huge role to play, especially in an unsettled world. We've got elections this year. We've got a war in Ukraine. We've got Israel, Palestine, Iran. There are so many big issues going on. And I think what the monarchy does provide that stability and comfort and reassurance for us.
Once a PR for the palace, Elsa, always a PR for the palace. You have to say that, don't you?
Yeah, I believe
But
it.
you had,
I
but
made
you, I
my own
mean,
trust.
you were walking around in the background, making these things happen, these things that are very public, very high profile. But there were moments when you, Elsa Anderson, you became this kind of part of the story. I remember when Prince George was born. I think it was you that actually delivered that notice. But while we are in this age of social media, there's still that tradition, isn't there, of posting
Yeah,
posting the message. So tell
absolutely.
us what your role was in that and why we all saw you on television on that day.
So, uh, obviously the birth happened. The proper official announcement on A4 paper has to be signed by all the medical team that were involved in the birth, and that notice
Right.
was delivered to Buckingham Palace, and we took out the historic frame that it goes in with
Mhm.
a chain at the back and put it in, and a footman and I walked across that famous cobbled stone forecourt, and we chained it to the railings for people just to see. And an orderly queue was formed, and people went and saw it. And I remember coming home after the excitement, and my son was at home, and he said, "Mummy, my friend saw you on telly." Oh, just think, what's the tea? So you can have the world media looking at you for a nanosecond, and then you come home and you do your Tesco shopping, you cook for the kids, you walk the dog, you do the laundry. So one lesson I have learned in life, Kate, is never be too grand, because people will bring you down to earth pretty quickly.
Well, isn't that the truth? Yes, it's it's so true. Um, Presumably you worked alongside William and Harry when they were younger. Were you surprised how things turned out with Harry?
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I am. The Harry that I knew, and I left when he was obviously before he got married, so yeah, 2013. But he was the media's darling. Yeah, I
Mm.
remember the story. He could not put a foot wrong. He was this war hero. He'd served. He was committed. He had the Invictus Games. He really couldn't. He couldn't put a step wrong. And in private, I just found him charming, funny, um, interesting. So yeah, I am surprised and saddened actually. As you will remember, all the sort of the three of them together, doing stuff for heads together for mental health. Um, and they felt like a really amazing team, and very joined up, and offering support to each other. So it does. It's certain. When it happens in any family, not just the royal family. When families break up, it's truly it's a loss, isn't it? It's a bereavement.
And did the Queen, when she wanted to see her family, would she send kind of official notices to them? And how did the family communicate amongst each other? Because we're always told that she used to write letters to Philip and things like that.
A phone was used, may I say?
Yeah.
So yeah, you communicate in the way that you and I would communicate,
Yeah, indeed.
apart
Well,
from standing at the bottom of the stairs and yelling. But I mean, telephones.
and you are in the very unique position of having the late Queen as your boss. What were the kind of life lessons or career advice you took away from that time at the palace?
Don't make up when you're not sure of your ground. Be very sure of your ground if you're
Right.
going to, because she would see through any I can't swear, can I? Any rubbish that you might spin. So
Shrewd.
be
She was
sure.
shrewd. Yeah.
She recognized someone who was, also she didn't like people who put other people down. She recognized she didn't like conceited people. You know, she
She didn't like people who sort of showed off. Because I remember being with
no,
her. You sort of kindly introduced me at one event, and there were lots of people saying, "Oh well, I'm this and I'm that," and she sort of seemed to find that all quite boring. People kind of showing off about their
yes,
status and
absolutely,
thing.
absolutely. Yeah, I remember not showing up, but just an amusing aside story, which so forgive me if I've told you this before, but the Queen was going to a Privy Council meeting in the palace, made up of senior cabinet ministers, and she walked in the door into the room, and one of the ministers' mobile telephones, went off, started ringing, and quick as a flash, the Queen said, "You better get that because it might be someone important."
I love
And
those kind of subtle kind of put downs. That's brilliant.
I know, and it just honestly, it
And
is.
the
She was very fun. She was very, very funny.
and that person was hoping is it Claire Shaw hoping that the ground might swallow them up or something. I can't remember who it was now.
I do.
Yeah. The king has issued a unique honour to his daughter-in-law, the Princess of Wales. They do seem to have quite a special bond, don't they? Is that something that
Yeah.
that you're familiar with, that you've witnessed?
Yes, absolutely. And I think, what really brought it home was him, going into hospital to have his own procedure, and visiting her while she was in hospital. And he calls her, my darling daughter-in-law. And I just think it's absolutely wonderful that he can have that relationship with her. I think it's really, really special.
Yeah, I think he obviously realizes the support that she provides
Yeah,
to his older son. Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much, Elsa, for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to get you on. I know you're extremely busy doing all sorts of important things, and
I
um,
wish.
but let's get you let's get you on in the future. I mean, we're coming up to the anniversary of the coronation, so I think there'll be much more to say.
Love
Um,
that.
Thank you so much for joining us, Elsa. You've been listening to Royal Confidential on Times Radio. You can find my work in the Times or listen to Times Radio for more royal updates. But for now, goodbye.
Welcome back to Harry and Meghan Tales, the series where we explore the intricate and fascinating lives of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. In this episode, we delve into the stories, relationships, and significant moments that have shaped their journey. We'll be focusing on the milestones that define Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's lives. Today, we're taking a closer look at Prince Harry's unique and heartfelt bond with his beloved grandmother, the late Queen Elizabeth II. From his childhood memories to their special moments together, we'll uncover the depth of their relationship. Let's get into it. Prince Harry has always been a figure of admiration, once celebrated as the media's darling for his charm, military service, and the founding of the Invictus Games. Beyond the public eye, his relationship with Queen Elizabeth II was one of deep respect and affection, even as the royal family faced its ups and downs in recent years. The Queen, known for her sharp wit and wisdom, held a special place in Harry's life. Her ability to cut through pretense and her dislike of arrogance were legendary. One iconic moment that perfectly illustrates her sharp wit and sense of humour occurred during a Privy Council meeting. During the meeting, a minister's phone unexpectedly rang. Without missing a beat, she turned to him and quipped, "You better get that. It might be someone important." Her quick response left everyone in the room chuckling. Moments like these showcased her relatability and down-to-earth nature, a quality that undoubtedly resonated deeply with her family, especially with Prince Harry. Her ability to connect on a personal level made her not just a monarch, but a beloved figure in the eyes of many. Even as Harry transitioned away from royal duties, his bond with the Queen remained unshaken. For Harry, she was not just the monarch, but a guiding figure, offering him support and understanding during life's pivotal moments. Their relationship was a testament to the strength of familial love, even amid the complexities of royal life. It's a reminder of how deeply the Queen's legacy impacted those closest to her, especially Harry. Thank you for tuning in to Harry and Meghan Tales. We hope you found this episode insightful and engaging. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more about the lives and legacies of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, make sure to stay connected with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us bring more fascinating stories to you.